Hello everyone, welcome. I'm your host, Miss Lady Kayla, and you're watching at Howard. Today's segment will be on the School of Communications. We'll be talking about the myths on our worth ethic and postgraduate job opportunities. I have two guests with me today, Mr. Nathan Keith, he's a freshman transfer from COAS, and Miss Alexis Johnson, who's a junior television production major. Right now, I'm with Mr. Keith, and he's from Las Vegas, Nevada. Can you tell us a little bit about your major, where you came from, and where you are?
Yeah, surely. I came from COAS, as you said before, and I was an economics major. I was in a scholarship program that focused on STEM majors. So they gave me the scholarship based on my interest in economics. And so that interest changed very quickly after taking an econ class and sort of getting into the swing of things in econ. So I talked with my academic advisor, and I spoke with other people outside of COAS, and I came over here to the School of C, and I talked to Mr. Lincoln Brown and Miss Williams, and they told me that I should transfer, but if I'm going to transfer, I need to do it by the end of my first semester. That way, right, I'm not too behind in my requirements, and so I can satisfy all graduation requirements.
So how would you describe the transition between being in numbers and dealing with law now?
Well, the transfer for me was a lot smoother than most, just because I did it beforehand. Okay. I did it ahead of time, and I took the precautionary steps instead of waiting to the last minute. And I had people there in my corner, so to say, that really helped me through the process. Like Ms. Williams, she really made sure that I was on track and that I was satisfying freshman requirements, prerequisites as far as English, math, things like that, mm-hmm, before I was able to even transfer.
I mean, I've been here for a little longer than you. I mean, not that long, but I've definitely heard a lot of myths. I have friends from all different majors that think I really don't do anything. Like, they'll be like in their books for hours, and I'm like, okay, well, when you're done, just hit me up. Like, I don't have any homework today. But how would you consider the difference between your workload in economics and now, and how would you describe the myths that you've heard, being a freshman?
Well, my first semester wasn't that hard, just because I had the Principles of Econ class. That was my most challenging course, and that class was really, like you said, to the textbook. A lot of reading and taking notes and going online and filling out the Connect, worksheets that we had to do. While here, it's more of writing things, like writing one-page papers or things like that, which is more in my area anyway. So it was easier for me to do the work here than it was to do the work as an econ major, just because of the way I work as a person.
Right. So would you think it's more of a passion and more of like if you enjoyed numbers as much as you enjoyed law, do you think it would be as easy?
Definitely. Just because you have that passion behind it, like you said. Right. But I have the passion behind, becoming a lawyer and doing great things with that. I didn't have the drive to become an economist or an economist or anything like that, or anything dealing with econ. I really have always been a sort of a lawyer, a lawyer-driven person.
So did anybody try to deter you from joining the School of C?
Nobody deterred me, but I heard things on social media like Twitter when I was searching the HU17
like
hashtag.
Like what? Tell me. I mean, I know a couple of rumors like about the fact that, as you said, we have a very simple process in joining. I mean, you're not really a great example of that because it was a simple process for you, but and that we're very organized and stuff like that. But what rumors have you heard?
Well, there was earlier in the year there was a hashtag going around, and I can't remember the name of the hashtag, but it was something on Twitter about School of C majors, and it was making fun of the School of C majors, making them sound easy. And so people were just they were just having fun with it, but you could tell that that's a stigma attached to the School of C.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you know now that you're a part of it, there is a lot more to do than than there is to meet the eye. What impressed you most about joining our family?
For one, the organization of everything.
So we
Things
are
were just, you are, or we are. So it was just the process was so fluid. I wouldn't say it was easy, I would say it was fluid as a parent, or as opposed to, going through the Howard runaround that so many students go through. And I mean, I even went through, I didn't know my faculty advisor until, the end of the semester when it was too late. Which is the reason I had to come down here, and they, helped me out. Even though I was a co-ops major, they still helped me out with that, with those things, because I had interest in, transferring to the School of C. So the first thing was organization. Right. And, also with that, it's a close-knit family. Like, I have people in my classes who are in all of my classes. And so we're easily, it's easy to get together and to join a study group or to do things and to get together on the weekends than it is with co-ops when it's so big. And you have, people in large amount of classes in an auditorium. And I mean, we have those classes too with prerequisites, but the majority of our classes, at least with my experience, have been no more than 30, 40 people.
I mean, for the fact that School of C and co-ops are completely different, like it's huge at the co-ops. I mean, I don't even know if you know your advisors there. But with it being so big and our field being so small, how do you think that impacts our internship and job opportunities?
I think we're able to get more job opportunities and more internships with the Career Development Center right down the corridor of the School of C. But I don't want to say that that co-ops is a bad school at all. They produce great people, but I didn't want to stay there. It wasn't in my best interest to stay there, and it wasn't in my passion to stay there. But it's a great school.
It's cool. You're in now. You're in with the good ones now. It's okay. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure they're great. What's your plans for, now that you made this big move, where you want to be now, and do you think you're on the right path?
Definitely. I went through the School of C orientation class with Dr. Bird, and we've had speakers that, came to us about speech pathology, which is in the communications of sciences and disorders. And I definitely, it's not the funnest thing in the world, but I was able to really understand what I wanted to minor in, because at the School of C major you have to minor in something outside of the School of C. So we do get the
flexibility.
Yeah, the flexibility, and we can dip our hands into more than one pot.
Right.
So with that, I was able to really pursue something as a minor that maybe I wasn't able to as a co-ops major. Right. So I was able to really just flourish as a person, and I'm looking forward to that even more as the years progress.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, I plan on being in grad school for, or just, going straight to law school. I've really big ambitions when it comes to those sort of things. But I mean, they're warranted by like the the Career and Development Center that we have down the hall, because it's an easy fallback, because you're able to go there and have your resume looked at every Tuesday. And things like that. Things are able to run a lot smoother. So I don't fear the future or fear unemployment as a college graduate.
Okay, well, I definitely can see high, bright things going your way. Honestly, your confidence is exactly what the School of C needed. And I'm sorry that, co-ops couldn't keep you. Lastly, I just want you to give some advice to those who might be interested or might have been in your position where they come here thinking that this is what they want to do, and then they realize, maybe School of C is where I want to do. What advice would you give somebody who wants to transfer?
It sounds really cliche, but pursue your passion, because you're not going to want to get up for a class that you're not going to be passionate about. Like me, I didn't want to wake up to go to my econ class early in the morning, but I'm able to make it to class a lot more when I realize that my future and my education is on the line when I don't go to class, or when I don't do this assignment, or when I slack off to the last minute. It's easier to find something you're passionate about. So look into every school, I guess, would be the advice to give, and to really think about the School of C, because we're such a small, close-knit family.
And we're pretty poppin', if you ask me. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. Well, thank you, definitely, Mr. Keys, for watching. We're going to go on a quick break with WHBC as a sponsor. So stay tuned, and Alexis Johnson is up next. Bye, guys.
The best thing that I can remember about Howard is the people at Howard.
This is not just a school to us, this is not just a building. The School of Communications is more like a home.
The environment really helped me to develop personally and to further define who I am.
I came out of that school thinking I could do anything and everything.
We have to send them out of here with the idea that no matter what happens, I can find a way.
I think there's just no end in sight to the kinds of contributions that our young people who live here are going to be able to make.
Communications is one of the fastest growing fields out there. It is a field that is continually changing. The equipment we use is changing. The way we communicate with each other is changing. The way people consume media is changing. You have to be trained on equipment that puts you in a position that you can foster your skills so you can be a long-term player in this industry.
A Center for Communications Excellence means that you are doing the things that allow you to have your students and faculty rise as high as their abilities and talents and skills will take them to make a meaningful contribution in some way.
If you come to Howard with the mindset that I'm going to meet great people and I'm going to do great things, then that's exactly what's going to happen for you.
When we talk about leadership for a global society, it is that. You know, right here on this campus, there are people from all over the world.
When I came in '81, my office for the first couple of years was in a trailer that was up near the football field. Our classes were in various places, so you were running all over the campus. The university said, we've got to get the School of Communications that's all over the campus into one facility. And so what they did was put us down in the C.B. Powell building, which was condemned in 1972, and it was being renovated now for us to use. We still are in a headquarters that are not state-of-the-art by any stretch of the imagination.
This was originally a hospital, not a telecommunications complex. It wasn't built for that reason.
It's very historic. However, it doesn't support the type of software we need, especially with communications, which is evolving every single day.
And despite this, our students have been able to find ways to make certain that they're learning and growing.
Yeah, you are now listening to Howard University's own
HBC. It was good, Howard University. You know who it is, your boy Showtime.
Every class I took, I was enthralled by what I learned, because it wasn't just about the field. It wasn't just about the writing. It was about the accomplishments in those areas that African Americans have made. See, we were being taught about our history. Many of us had absolutely no idea who Oscar Micheaux was or who John H. Johnson was. They weren't just important to African American history, they were important to this country.
He was born in Arkansas City, Arkansas. Very, very poor. His mother was a housekeeper. His father was killed in a sawmill accident in Arkansas. And his mother, Gertrude Johnson Williams, really believed in my father and in her son. And she always wanted the best for him. Being in Arkansas, very limited funds, very limited schooling, so much so that he had to repeat the 8th grade so that she could save up enough money to put him on a train and move to Chicago, where he could get a better education.
I think he's just proven that it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter how little or how much you have. If you have a vision, if you have the will to succeed, if you have the determination, you can achieve anything.
He looked at Life magazine and said, I can do that. I want to start a magazine. I want to start a magazine for African Americans in a time when nobody did. Absolutely not. He went to his mother and he asked to borrow $500 from her. And she thought about it, prayed on it for about a week, and she said yes, because she believed in him that much, and so she mortgaged her furniture for $500, and that is actually how he got started, how he funded Johnson Publishing Company. It's a great deal of faith and entrepreneurship.
That was, 70 years ago, but there are comparable things happening today in society where you need to have courage and where you need to have an understanding of maybe I should make a contribution that takes me beyond me and my things.
He visited the White House under every president since Eisenhower. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Clinton. So he reached a tremendous height and level of respect amongst not only just his peers, but amongst the global community. All through hard work and perseverance and never taking no for an answer.
Anyone who's in any position in the media and entertainment industry who's a person of color has to thank him for paving the way.
Welcome back to At Howard. I'm your host, Miss Lady Kayla, and we've just finished with a freshman perspective of the School of C through the eyes of Nathan Keith, and we got the message from our student-ran radio program, or radio station, WHBC. And now we're going to speak a little bit about my field. I have with me today Alexis Johnson. She's a junior television production major in the building. So, Alexis, can you tell me a little bit about how you started, where this love of film began?
So my passion for TV production came about during my high school years back at home in Atlanta. I used to be on the production team in my high school. I was the director for 2 years, won some awards and some stuff like that. And really started getting into it, went to a couple of programs outside of my high school at different colleges, really fell in love with it and saw it as something I can do.
Wow, that's amazing, very impressive. A lot of people don't know, and I don't know if you know as well, that, I'm sure you know, being in the School of C is not as easy as it looks, as much as it's cameras and just, it may just look like we're just holding it and just recording and shooting and editing and that's it. I know that it takes a lot of hard work. As a production student, what would be considered hard work for you?
I think the biggest thing is time commitment to being a communications major. There's a lot of technical work that has to be done. There's a lot of shooting, editing, things like that, preparation, 3 phases of production. So all that takes a lot of time, and we all want to have it to a certain standard that we think is feasible for the public.
Do you think that the School of C does a good job in providing providing opportunities for post-graduation, like once we're finished?
Definitely. Like if you look at the different alum that came out of the School of C, we have people that are reporters, producers, directors, writers, and I think the biggest thing is just showing that you want it, talking to your counselors, talking to your mentors, or just networking very, and grinding while you're in school. You'll definitely have a good outcome.
Honestly, when it comes to the School of C, I know that it takes a lot of preparation, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, patience, even. Does School of C prepare you for the real world?
The School of C definitely prepares you for the real world. Being in DC, definitely, we're one of the only HBCUs with a program that we have, and since we're located in the metro area, Washington, DC, there's a lot of opportunities to intern and do other things that can prepare you for your career field.
What do you think? What would you say life outside of the classroom would be for a communication student?
It never stops. The grind never stops. We're always working to, do homework or to finish a video or, whatever we have to do in order to go to the next level and
there's always some
progress.
Kind of deadline.
Definitely, always a deadline, and always more work to do as well. So.
Right. In the next 5 years, where do you see yourself, and where do you think School of C kind of fits into where you'll be?
In the next 5 years, I won't say I'm at my peak yet. I definitely hoped, I'm not sure if I'm going to go to grad school, if I'm going to go straight into, the work field, but I definitely hope that in the next 5 years I have the ability to come back to Howard, definitely the School of C, and share my experience with other students who want to become something in my career field, or either they just want to be a part of the School of C. So share my knowledge on what I've done, and hopefully that encourages them to keep going.
Honestly, I want to thank you so much for your views and sharing them with me and all of our viewers. I hope to have you again on another one of our segments, and thank you so much. I hope to see you in the future.
Thank you.
John Johnson could do it back in the 1940s when all the odds were against him. Just think about how much more you can do, and think about how much more Howard can do if they're able to build a state-of-the-art communications school.
I think if my father were here today, he would say that communications now has become such a global entity that it is imperative that African Americans understand the world at large and their place in the world at large, and that they have a very fundamental and sound education.
My dream would be that the school would just take off, to be able to send out more engaged, involved, courageous, good people who are great at the craft and the art of what they do in the profession, and who are willing to step out and make a difference in some ways that will help our society be better and stronger. That would be my dream.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Miss Lady Kayla, and you're watching at Howard, and we're back. I'm lucky, you're lucky, we're all really lucky to have this special man in our lives, Professor Holloway. He's actually one of my favorite professors here at School of C. He actually helped me produce one of my first shows here in the School of C. So I would love to thank him. A special thank you to you. And I have a couple questions for you.
All right, you think that introduction is going to get an A, right?
Look, all my introductions get me A's, okay?
No, thank you very much.
No problem. I don't know if you know, but I know about the rumors going around about, this being easy. Now, you saw how much work I put in for that production that I did for your class, and it was a lot of running around and all that. So how do you feel that impacts students when they hear that, what we do is easy? It's not really useful.
Well, easy and hard is a matter of perspective. And so the perspective for some that is easy, others may say it's hard. So for example, I think, this is a difficult thing, but it's easy for some of us because it's what we like to do. Now, you ask someone who's majoring in engineering or in the computer sciences to come in and host a television program, produce an edit, that might be very hard for them because some people just frightening to do public speaking. Right. To be on television, is another thing. So that could be tremendously hard for some others, but yet easy for some as well. So I think, what we do is difficult because it's a trade, it's something that you have to learn to do. But it can come easy to us if that's what we like to do, but you still have to work hard, and the effort that you put into it is what you get out of it.
Do you think having good work ethic, and when I say work ethic, I would love for you to elaborate a little bit more on what work ethic and the entertainment industry actually is. But when it comes to that, do you think that with a lot of good work ethic would be able to defeat some of the stigmas that come with joining the School of C?
Well, yeah. Well, work ethic is important no matter what you do, but in this field, it's particularly important because, as I mentioned earlier, the harder you put an effort into it, the more work you put into it, the better your product is going to be. So in this case, for example, those persons that come early, leave late, volunteer to do extra kinds of things, that is noticed. And the more effort you put into your product, as I mentioned, you know, the better product you're going to get out of it. So work ethic is important, and people notice that. And especially in a tough economy, those that are hiring are going to be looking to hire people that have a good work ethic. For example, something that I asked students last semester, and I'll ask you and maybe those in the class, if you were hired to do job A and your supervisor asked you to do B and C, what would be your response?
I'll do whatever you want me to do. You paying me for it, then you got me to do A, B, C, and is there a D?
There you go. Well, and that's an example. That's work ethic. And that's in this economy, that's what employers are looking for. Now, it's easy to say, you know, that's not what you hired me to do, you know, and I was hired to do A.
Right.
Well, they're going to look for the person that's open to, and they may ask you that kind of question in a different way in an interview.
Coming from, you know, I know, well, some of us may not know, I know per se, but you actually were a student here at Howard some time ago. The resources that we have here now, what is the difference between what you had then, and how do you think it impacted you?
Well, I'll give the fortunate part and the unfortunate part. Which one do you hear first?
I always was a big fan of hearing bad news first.
Bad news first.
End it off with good news.
Yeah, the bad news is that the building is the same building, and we're in the process of trying to upgrade the building. As you know, the university just recently received a donation in the amount of $4 million.
Yes, I did.
Right, to hopefully that will go towards the upgrade or renovation of this existing building. That's the bad news, is that the building has not been changed or upgraded. Right. What has changed differently is that over the last several decades that the industry has made a transition from analog to digital. In the old days, we had analog tape, we had big cameras that you had to carry around, they had a battery pack to go with it, you had a huge light kit, you had tapes that you had to carry along with you. You needed a vehicle to store the stuff, you know. When you came to edit, you had at least 3 big 3/4 inch machines plus an edit bay and monitors. You can do all that now on the computer. Right. You know, all your software, everything is there. There's no tape necessarily. You can publish content directly that people can see worldwide on the internet, on applications, on your phone. It's just a tremendous change.
It is. I mean, my mother's just trying to figure out how to group chat, and I'm just like, lady, girl. But another thing that I've definitely noticed in being in this field is that you can't just be able to do one thing. You have to know how to do it all. You can't just be able to hold the camera. You have to know how to edit it. You have to know how to mix it. You have to also, I'm television production, and I'm taking audio production classes, and I'm so confused sometimes, like, because I don't feel like this is what I'm gonna need. And for me, it's kind of hard balancing the fact that I need more than one, you know, I need to learn how to do more than one thing. So for me, would you say, is it harder to learn how to be multifaceted or finding time to do everything?
Well, I think it's actually harder doing it than it is actually working on learning how to do it, because, you know, knowledge is one thing, but the application of knowledge is another. So I think many people can learn how to do something and can pass a test and that kind of thing, but can you actually discipline yourself to do it? So I think it's harder to actually be disciplined and actually do it day in and day out, every day, every night, and continue to improve. Because in this business, you know, there's an old saying that you're only as good as your last show, you know, so, but you've got to continue to improve. Oprah Winfrey, you know, spent several decades, you know, and got better and better. And then she has her own network.
Well, I definitely, and that's going to be me, of course. Everyone knows that. That's why I'm here. I definitely want to say thank you so much for your time. I thank you guys for tuning in and watching and staying with me. Thank you, Alexis Johnson, Nathan Keith, for coming to visit, and WHBC for your sponsor. I hope to see you guys very soon. I'm Miss Lady Kayla, and you were watching at Howard.